T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Shout out to US ARC and all US ARC members. If you don't know what US ARC is, don't be ashamed. Just go ahead and click the third link in the description below. See what US ARC is all about, okay? You never know when legislations are going to hit your backyard, so that's why it's very important to consider becoming a US ARC member today. These numbers really do matter, and they look at it for consideration when it comes to battling legislation. So first and foremost, thank you, Phil Goss. Thank you to anybody out there who partners up and volunteers with US ARC organization. Thank you for anyone out there who's a US ARC member. And if you can't become a US ARC member today, please talk about it on your platforms. Let your neighbors know, let all your pet stores know what US ARC is here for, and it's here to fight for our animal rights. Thank you to every US ARC member and US ARC supporter out there. True.
All right, guys. Hope you're all having a great evening. Super excited to have Miss Jessica and Savannah on tonight to talk about their role with Reptile Youth Alliance, but also what else they've got going on within the reptile industry. We're all already on episode 30. Again, this is Krista from the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. If you are new here, don't be afraid to hit the like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you'll get notified with all the content. I'll kind of show our weekly calendar next, showing the shows we have every day of the week. But also in the description below, you can see where you can join US ARC and also how to join the Trap Talk Patreon family. It's been a wealth of knowledge for me since joining it last year. Made a lot of new friends, a lot of network and connections. So again, I think it's super, super important to join Patreon groups, get involved, and I really highly recommend the Trap Talk Reptile Network Patreon family. I know MJ will be giving some giveaway snakes upcoming in the next few months, so join and get excited for that. And then here is our weekly schedule. So again, we're on Sunday, so the girls who love reptiles. But if you're new here, like I said, hit that notification bell and you'll get notified whenever we're going live. We are 7 days a week, bringing to you guests from wide across the industry with different range of knowledges and different species. And overall, you have a great time and learn a lot. So go ahead and get tapped into all the episodes we're having. And yeah, there's me. So I hope you guys are having a great Sunday. I'll bring on the banner there. I'll say hi to some of you guys in the chat, the first few guests, and then we'll bring on our guests for tonight and go ahead and get started. Shout out to the Rice Family Reptile team wearing their merch tonight. I'll have an exciting announcement with the Rice Reptiles and Reptico with Channing and family the next coming week. So get excited for that. So we got Mike. Mike's always first from MORPH Avenue. Always one of the first guests every night. So I appreciate that. Go ahead and do Boza Reptiles, one of the biggest supporters in the industry. Thank you so much. Justin from Ozark Mountain Morphs. Yeah, thanks for tapping in, guys. Do a few more here. We got Dan from Vision Quest. Tommy from Exotic World of Geckos. Thanks for tapping in, guys. And we'll end it with 219 Reptiles. Thanks for tapping in. As always, I want to make sure this is interactive. So if you guys have any questions, comments, put them in the chat, super chats or whatever, and I'll pull them up. But then I'll bring our guests on. We'll go ahead and get started. All right, Jessica. And then we got Savannah. Hey, guys. What's up?
Hi.
How's it going? How's your weekend been?
Busy. Good. Yours?
Pretty busy as well. It was finally warm out. I got a lot done, cleaning around the house, did all the animals today, had a work party yesterday, and then today I got home just a little bit ago. We had like a rock band dinner party, so we ate food and played rock band for a few hours. So my had to sing a lot because nobody wants to play it, so my voice might be a little sore tonight. Nobody wants to sing. I had to do a little bit.
That's awesome. That's really fun.
Yeah. What'd you guys do this weekend?
I went to Repticon on Saturday, so yesterday, and I helped volunteer for USARK Florida, and we had an auction, and we raised, how much was it? It was $10,663 for USARK Florida yesterday at Tampa Repticon. So I got suckered into that because they were short volunteers, but it was really fun. And so if anybody's ever thinking about volunteering, it's a really good way to network. And so there are a lot of people that I've known for years that I may have seen hi in passing, but I actually got to have more one-on-one. So it was fun to volunteer, and it was really cool to see that they raised $10,000. So
yeah, that's awesome. When I move to Florida, I'll have to definitely reach out and see if I can volunteer. I plan on going to some of the shows down there. So yeah, is there an auction for every Repticon, or was that one specifically?
they do it for the bigger Repticons. So Tampa's a big show. And then one of the biggest auctions they do is Jessica and I always go. We go to the National Breeders Expo in Daytona yearly.
Oh, yep.
And that's usually in August. And they usually raise, they're raising like $100,000 at those, which is crazy because they have a huge banquet space. They usually do it at the Hilton. So it's a much bigger venue. But yeah, usually the larger shows is when they do a lot of the fundraising.
Awesome. Cool. That's really, really neat. And Jessica, how was your weekend?
It was busy as well. It's funny because you said you're starting to warm up. We got cold again over the weekend. So I performed in an outside like art festival, and it was freezing, but it was a lot of fun. We played Star Wars and Star Trek music. So it was neat. It was really interactive and something different, not like our normal performances that take place in a music hall. So
awesome. Cool. Sounds like we all had pretty fun and busy weekends. And yeah, the work week starts tomorrow, of course. So awesome. Yeah. Well, I'll get into it. Kind of my shows are a little more organic, I guess, as we discussed. But the first question I asked is, how you guys got into the reptile industry, how you guys know each other, and we'll kind of just start from there. Yeah.
Well, Jessica plays the flute, just so we know, when she was playing this weekend. She started playing the flute. Why did you start playing the flute, Jessica? You're supposed to tell her why you started playing the flute.
When I was 8, I thought I wanted to be like, I started when I was 8. I thought I was going to be a snake charmer. So I used to play outside and try to lure snakes.
Okay, so that's where the love of reptiles kind of came for, huh? And the music. I played flute too when I was growing up. I did piano, flute, guitar. So I got out of it when I got into high school and college. But yeah, I had a lot of fun playing the instruments too. So yeah.
Played the trombone.
I don't think I have the arm strength for that. I barely had the arm strength for the flute. They had to tell me, they're like, Krista, put your arms up like all the time. I was like, I have no upper arm strength. Yeah.
I would just hit people in the back of the head, so it wasn't. Jessica and I actually met, it was years ago, probably like 8 or 9 years ago. I was breeding panther chameleons, and Jessica and her family used to own multiple reptile shops. Now they're down to one. No, I'm just kidding. They have a great shop. But Jessica bought a bunch of panther chameleons from me. So she drove hours away to my house, and she was one of the few people that actually told her the actual address of my home, and she came up and bought a bunch of panther chameleons. And then we actually became better friends when we started doing a podcast during COVID time. So 2019, 2020, we were peddling guests and doing the podcast. So it was really fun.
I was trying to remember, when did we do the Croc Fest podcast? That was the best. That was really fun.
It was 2020, I think, is when we did that. And that's what really inspired us to start the Reptile Youth Alliance. We had talked a lot about it before, but we went, they usually do it at Zoo Tampa. Not always, there's different locations. But the one that we attended was for the Gharial. Did I say that right? Yeah. And they raised like $68,000 in that one night. And we talked to Flavio because we did an interview with him before we went, and we actually did a podcast from Croc Fest. But it was really inspiring. They started Croc Fest in somebody's backyard and raised like less than $10,000 the first event, and now they're raising $80,000, $100,000 per event, and they have just so many names in the industry that go to their events. But it was just really cool to see that you could just take, just something small and really grow it. And so we thought about it. We both were reptile store owners, and we both since gotten out of that industry. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But,
I can imagine.
But we're both into teaching now. So I've been teaching for 10 years, reptile programs. And then Jessica actually never decided to teach, but then working with reptiles and kids really changed her whole direction career wise.
Oh, wow.
Yes. My dad was a teacher. I'm married to a teacher. I have a sister that's a teacher. My grandma was a teacher. And I was like, I would never want to be a teacher ever. But after working with the kids in the Reptile Youth Alliance, I love the kids. And I just saw we can make a difference by, working with them. And as far as conservation goes. So that's really
for sure
what inspired me to get into teaching, even was just working with them through the Reptile Youth Alliance. So
my mom's a teacher as well, so I kind of grew up with her. She's been doing it. I think she stopped when we were growing up, and then she went back and is still teaching. She's done all age levels. She does high school now, but yeah, the very, very important job, very hard job. She's on her feet all day, and she also does cheerleading coaching, so it's a lot of coming back and making dinner real quick and then going to events and all of that. So it's a lot of work, but
what was that?
Oh yeah, you're one of those. Yeah.
Her husband, what does he coach? Football
and weightlifting. Okay. Right now it's weightlifting season, so
I don't know how.
And then I do the Reptile Youth Alliance Club at my school too, and then also I started a drum line, so we're back and forth with school activities all the time. So
all the time, yeah. Coming home late, I'm sure we're getting up early. Yeah, go. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about the Reptile Youth Alliance. Talk about a little bit how it started. How to what have you learned through that? What are some activities that you do? How involved is it? Yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah, so we were really inspired when we went and did that podcast at CrocFest, and we were really trying to figure out, and we realized it's hard to change adults' minds. They're kind of stuck in their ways. But what I found and what we've really seen is that if you can change the mind of a kid, then you can change the mind of their entire family, because that kid will inspire their parents, their aunts and uncles, grandparents. Once the parents see the kids' love and interest in it, and it's positive and has a good influence on them, it really does inspire a change of mind when it comes to the thinking of reptiles. So we're really into conservation, STEM-based education. So we really try to get science, technology, engineering, and math incorporated. Ozempic is a really good one for us because I tell people, I don't really care if you love reptiles or if you want to keep a bunch of reptiles, because I mostly work with the general population. I just want you to understand their benefit to the world around them, to you, to me. You don't have to want to pet a Gila monster to know that it might save your grandma's life if she has diabetes. So understanding that these animals have more of a value to us than just necessarily as pets or otherwise, it really inspires conservation efforts, because we don't know, axolotls, axolotls are almost extinct in the wild, but now scientists have been studying them for cancer fighting research. They chopped the head off of one axolotl and attached it to the body of another axolotl, and it rewired the nervous system. I always tell kids, I'm like, it's my body now. It's creepy.
That's wild. I knew they did regeneration, but I'm gonna have to look into that because I haven't seen that.
Yeah, they're one of the. Yeah, they can actually regrow neurons, which I don't know of anything else that can regrow neurons. So,
crazy.
Yeah, they're really interesting.
Yeah, so that's a big one, especially with games and stuff like Minecraft, and there's all these different games that axolotls are in. So kids are just totally into axolotls. So those are really good examples that we use for the Reptile Youth Alliance. So we try to do science, technology, engineering, and math. We're also trying to hit a group of kids, which we kind of feel like make up a big majority of the reptile market and industry, are kind of, I don't know. I think there's a reason why we all are kind of geared towards reptiles. We maybe like the underdog or appreciate things or animals that people don't normally appreciate. But I think that comes with people having to deal with diversity on their own. So I think that for reptile people in general, they're usually a little bit more open-minded, but they also usually come from diverse backgrounds, but also sometimes they come from a lot of aversion
Challenging.
too.
Yeah.
So like Jessica had a student who used to bike in the rain, like literally just to come volunteer. And that's what really made her really fall in love with teaching and kids, is like to see their determination and how much these kids are willing to sacrifice to be around the animals and what it means to them. Jessica's amazing at marketing. She's done her own TED Talks. She's now, she's a TED Talk coach, which is super cool. And, she also helped us like really like get together and start doing the conference. So that was like the biggest stressor ever. We had like, I mean, Eric from Zoom Ed really helped out. There were so many different vendors that came and supported us for our first event. That was in 2022. And let me tell you, it was not without its hiccups. Like, I mean, we were down to the wire and they were like, yeah, you can't bring live animals. We're like, we just booked this and we've had this booked for 8 months and you're telling us 3 days before. So, you know, we're like finagling, well, what if we have a vet tech on, or, you know, a vet on site, you know, doing wellness checks on the animals. So, you know, we really jumped through hoops for our Reptile Youth Alliance conference. And that was STEM and education based. So it was like a science fair and a reptile show kind of combined. Which
awesome.
is super cool. It was so fun.
Cool.
It was fun. And, you know, we learn like what kinks we want to work out. And we both have full-time jobs teaching. So I'm like going up to here because I see you guys above me. So I'm like, they're above me. Sorry if anybody sees me pointing. They're up there. No. But, you know, it was really stressful, but it's something we really hope to do more of in the future. I visit 8 to 10 schools a week. And then Jessica has her reptile club and does the middle schools. I teach K through 12. So I mostly teach Title I students, which are kids that are on like free and assisted lunches. So a lot of these kids aren't able to maybe go to the zoo or have never been to the zoo or anything like that. So I bring animals to them, and then I do worksheets so they really learn about the animals. And I'm really trying to inspire them to, like I say, you don't have to love them, but understand that they are really important, you know, to us and the world around us. And to be honest, most kids and even some teachers fall in love with the animals. Not all of them, though, because some of them still talk pretty poorly.
Yeah.
But
you always have one.
Well, it's funny because we get so much pushback from adults, and just some of the things that they say, they would never say that in any other circumstance. So it's interesting to work with reptiles, I think. And it's always confused me as to why people don't like them. And that's kind of what my TED Talk was about. Like, what is it about reptiles that you don't like? Is it because they don't have fur? Is it because they're not cut? Like, what is it specifically? And I've never heard a really good reason as to why people don't like reptiles. So
they're slimy.
It's interesting seeing the kids present the animals. So that's one of the big things that we do with the Reptile Youth Alliance. And that's actually what I did my master's thesis on, was the effectiveness of children presenting information to adults, not just ones that they know. Like Savannah talked about how, if they usually change their families' minds about, but even strangers will see a child with a snake and be more apt to listen to the child talk about the snake than they are if they just see me with a snake. So
that's very interesting.
That's one thing. And on the other side too, it also helps build kids' confidence. These are kids who might not get academic awards or are ever told that they can go into a science field. But through the Reptile Youth Alliance, we've been able, like, we've seen some of our kids graduate high school and go on. We have a couple kids that are working on biology degrees right now. I have a kid that's working in the vet field, working towards getting a vet certification. So it's really exciting to see it change for the animals, but also change for the kids as well.
Yeah. You can just see how your impact on the kids can change their life, that you can have that kind of impact, and then they talk to people, they change other people. It's like kind of a domino effect, really. I had similar in vet school. We had outreach programs to kids in the community. Would go there, they would dress up as a vet, they would kind of play doctor, if you will, or we had a open house. And we even in residency and PhD, we have an open house at the vet school, or the yeah, the people from the community come in, they walk through the vet school, and we kind of educate them on the research part of it. They look at a microscope, and just seeing their faces light up and they're happy and interested, and they, go to their parents, hey, look what it's just such a satisfying and so much needed, I think, too, because of the kind of stigma around reptiles. Now, since you've started, have you kind of seen, what, as the generations of new kids coming in, like, changes in their look towards reptiles? Yeah, talk about that. I'm really curious about that, how that's kind of changed over the years.
So in 10 years, personally, with me, like, I have just seen such a different outlook. And so what's really cool now too is that a lot of the kids and teenagers that I taught 10 years ago are now adults. So now you're talking, like, I visit a lot of YMCA after school camps. And so a lot of the kids that were students before are now like camp instructors and camp counselors, or, the different names, and they have reptiles. So like one of the schools that I go to, the assistant, he is 21 and he has 2 leopard geckos. So whereas 10 years ago, maybe even the adults didn't have it, now we're hitting that next generation. And it really, I mean, from now, especially even from when I was a kid, well, I'm 38. So, but, just the way that people look at reptiles differently are just completely different. And so it is really neat to see that there isn't an ick factor. I'm not having to dispel as many fears because kids already are watching snake discovery. I mean, it's so cool, like, to go to schools and see how many, like, Miss Savannah, do you watch YouTube? And it's like social media and like YouTube and like, even like your podcast now, people being able to see that and normalizing it is amazing. We were featured, the Reptile Youth Alliance was featured in a video posted by NASA.
Oh,
and Jessica got
cool.
us into that. Yeah, when it comes to our STEM-based education. So, I mean, we're not trying to preach to the choir. We're trying to do outreach to other people that might not think that, it's normal. And I can pose as normal pretty well. So pose being the opposite word.
As normal as we can be, right? And then you start talking about reptiles, and then to the normal person, you get to see that look in their eye where they're starting to like, you're like, you gotta reel back a little bit.
But yeah, we're still fighting against like the older generations. Like one school I go to, I've known the lady for 4 years. She is an ex-principal. She works with special needs students, and I visit that school. I usually do 8 weeks worth of programs. And it's crazy because she just talks so poorly about the animals, all manners. And like, it's just weird. Like social norms and manners just completely go out the window and out the door when it comes to reptiles. People, I mean, she's a principal. She would never speak about any other animal or anything else. She works with special needs kids. You would never talk about anything the way she talks about reptiles. And finally one day I was like, you don't like me, do you? She's like, no, I love you. And I'm just like, then maybe you shouldn't like talk like about my horrible snakes and like,
Yeah.
So it is weird, but it really, what I'm seeing is this is mostly older generations that were really like, and you're not going to change somebody who's 70 years old. You're not going to change their mind. But the thing is we have the chance to change the future. So, I'm not going to sit there and try to tell, Uncle Jim Bob that he shouldn't just, shouldn't shoot rattlesnake and I'm not going to get into there and have a debate. But if somebody's open-minded and willing to like learn and understand, then, I'm willing to have that discussion.
For sure. Jessica, were you going to say something?
Yeah. We've even faced that with, we've even seen that with trying to get grants for the Reptile Youth Alliance. Even people, we got a pretty big grant and they ended up changing CEOs, and the new CEO came in and didn't like reptiles. So you can see it, like they don't even listen to our proposal. They hear the word reptiles and are immediately out. So it's been really frustrating. It's so much so that we've discussed changing the name to Nature Youth Alliance versus Reptile Youth Alliance because we've hit such roadblocks with that negative perception of reptiles.
It's interesting. It's interesting. Because you see, at least in our culture, I feel like that we should be, open, amendable. So it's still interesting to see people like closed off. And if you talk to them, they don't have like an experience. It's just what they've seen, right? Where they see something on Discovery Channel of a snake biting this or killing somebody or something like that. And then it ends up, it's not the same type of thing. right? It's a different world. So it's hard. I mean, I run into the same thing with animal research sometimes, where I have to be, talking to people and educating them about it because it's so much needed. But yeah, you do run into people who don't want anything to do with it, don't want to hear anything about it when they don't fully understand and they're not willing to understand it. So it's hard to change the mind if they're not open from the beginning.
Well, and that's the
Exactly.
roadblocks that we run into. Like Jessica was saying, you might have one person in the organization who's like, yes, we're all about this. And then maybe somebody above them, and they won't go outright and tell you that it's about the reptiles. They'll just create all these different rules and stipulations that just try to like shut you off. Like kind of what we had with the conference. We had agreement to have live animals there for months and months and months. And it was only towards the end of right before we actually did the event that they were, throwing out all these different stipulations. And it really, it was very obvious that it wasn't because, or it was because it was reptiles and not, anything else, which was odd because we picked the university specifically because they had a herpetology department. So we thought that we would have less pushback. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to, like we said, we try to do the name change. We were thinking about doing the Nature Youth Alliance. It always kind of reminded me like Gatorland used to be called Snake World, and then nobody would go to Snake World. So they changed the name to Gatorland. So we thought we could maybe get some more conservation effort, but I think it also dilutes like what we are doing as an organization. We really are looking to, we're looking at STEM-based education and conservation for reptiles. We're not trying to promote anything else. So, we really do want to stick to our guns when it comes to that. Future aspirations are really to try to raise more funds, and we want to do more trips with the students. Before COVID, Jessica had a trip with the students down to, you were going to go to the Grand Caymans? And she had the whole trip planned.
Conservation.
And she was going to go talk, about the Grand Cayman rock iguana, which would have been amazing to have for the students to see. But we really want to start raising funds and awareness for these animals and then taking students directly to those places to actually donate the money. We feel like not only is that teaching about conservation and reptiles, but that also is giving them, like we said, a leg up and really pushing for, if you're 14 years old and you take a trip to the Grand Caymans and you donate $10,000 to the conservation fund when you're 14, imagine what you're going to do at 24.
Yeah.
If you already have that confidence and already have that backing, I was afraid to work with reptiles. I didn't even start working with reptiles until I was 29. So I can't imagine if I had somebody, a mentor who really like inspired that passion in me when I was like 14, 15, 16, where I would already be ahead in my career when it came to that, and knowledge too. So that's what we're really like pushing for and striving for.
I bet that's hard with the funding now. I mean, I'm kind of seeing it in academia as well, but the funding and the grants are there a lot of grants out there for this, or is that just really, it sounds like it's been difficult, but I didn't know if you've been able to find certain industries that have.
Because we can go at it from a couple of different angles. Yes, it's reptile conservation, but we're also helping underserved communities to trying to get education, STEM-based education. So like a lot of the kids that I serve here locally where I live, they don't have a place to go after school, and they're middle school, high school kids. So they would come, they would help take care of the animals. I would help them with their science or math homework. So it gave them a place because some of the kids didn't have electricity at home, or I usually had snacks and drinks and stuff for them, at our location, so they could, have a safe place to come, have a fun place where they could learn, they could do their homework, they could excel in their academics and learn a lot of fun stuff about animals. They got to meet a lot of the people that they really look up to. We would take them with us to the Daytona show. So that was always really exciting to see when they would get to meet these people that they follow on YouTube, when they would get to meet them in Daytona.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. But they're like, hey, can we get their signature? Yeah. Can we get their autograph? Yeah.
That's and then we forced them to go around and ask for donations. So they had to like go talk to people. They're like, we don't want to.
That's funny. Daytona's a great show. I went there this past August, and I'll go there again this August. I'll be officially moved to Florida by then, so it should be a pretty easy trip. But
Yeah, you definitely have to come
So,
stop by and see us. Wayne is
yeah,
amazing. That is one of the coolest shows I've ever been to.
yeah,
I did a lot of traveling for Repticons and stuff like that years ago, but that is such a cool show because there's so many people from around the country. And if you want to like meet anybody that you ever were like, goo goo gaga about, you're like, they're there, they're gonna be there. We're like, that person, that person, that person, that person. So yeah, Jessica got us a grant. We've gotten grants and donations from NASCAR.
wow,
Was it the Dollar Tree or Dollar General that did our reading program?
Dollar General. Yeah. We
Dollar
did
General.
a summer reading program.
love Dollar General.
Mhm.
I know. Every time I go there, I'm like, I love it. Reinvested in the community.
My mom loves it too. She's obsessed with Dollar General, Dollar Tree. She's always
See, and they're a big donator of the Reptile Youth Alliance. They gave us a few grand, so it was amazing. They did a great job. So, it's really crazy to see how sometimes it might feel easy to get these, and then it's very difficult. I'm not a grant writer for sure.
It's hard. I've had to write three actually. Two got funded, and then one we're working with the NIH to get a funding. I don't think they will before I graduate, but it's hard.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and then, like I said, sometimes we've gone to proposals and they don't go anywhere. So
Yeah.
like we just did all of that work and for nothing. So yeah, it is a lot of work, but it's worth it for the kids. So we like to, like I said, the kids that I work with, a lot of times they can't afford to do anything. So being able to take them to places so that they can, and we've gone on quite a few trips. So just local trips. We went to the Orion Indigo Center. So that was really fun for the kids. They got to see, they breed Eastern indigos and release them
neat
into the wild. So we got to take the kids there. And that was awesome for them to see. We went down to Iguana Land. Ty let us come before he even opened. He was great. He let us bring the kids there. And they got to, see all the different cool things that he has. So that was a lot of fun. So it's good for the kids to be able to get out because they just wouldn't be able to do that a lot of times. So
yeah, that's super. I've actually heard Bavu, shout out to him, he had the Southeast Reptile Expo in Atlanta. I heard he's working with Ty and Iguana Land, and they're going to have a conservation show
yes.
there.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard a little bit about? I don't know much about it. I just know it's in the works right now, where all the proceeds will get donated to conservation. So
yeah, Ty's done really great events. I went to the first Iguana Fest and it was really cool. His facility is in Punta Gorda, so it's going to be near where you're moving to.
Oh, cool.
Like maybe 40 minutes from where you are.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's really close, but it's an amazing facility. And what he's done in the reptile industry is really cool, especially for Iguana Land. I tell students to go there all the time. Actually, I was just talking to some parents and they had rock iguanas. And I'm like, you have rock iguanas? Do you know about Ty Park? He's like, right there,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really neat to see all the conservation efforts that he's done. And it things like that, are very inspiring. Ty Park has come to my local herpetology society and done meetings and given us discounts into the center. So, when you look at people that's what they're building their names on and that's what their legacy is, that's what you really think about. Like, I'm not that old, but when it comes to like what you want to do with yourself, like what do you want to build? What are you looking to really get out of life? And we love reptiles. And so it's amazing because I didn't think we could do so much that we've already done. I mean, it's been really cool. And it's been really neat to see how many people are passionate about it and how many people are really willing to get their hands dirty and like volunteer. We've had so many people come out, they do it for free. They paid for a spot when we had our convention, but they were there just to educate the kids and they were enthralled by it and they loved working with the kids. We have so many great pictures from the convention and other events that we did. We did an event with NASCAR and we had a gator and we had lots of kids.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very fun event. But, it was so neat to see like how many people are really, really willing to show up for kids. And, the kids, they just eat it up. And it's just really awesome to see like they it just takes that fear factor away. It's kind of like with me with animals. Like I used to work at a place actually with Scientologists. I used to go to their Fort Harrison hotel. So it was all like swanky people, and I'd see movie stars and all kinds of people. But we used to bring animals, once a month, and we'd have helpers. They were the Scientologist staff. And there was one guy, he was German, and he was terrified of tarantulas. And eventually he let my tarantula walk over his hand. And then after a few months of going, he literally was like walking around with the tarantula showing like, hey, have you seen that? And like, he was deathly afraid. Yeah. But I feel that way in life. If you can overcome even a small fear, it just shows you how simple or stupid those fears are and how easy it is to overcome them. So if you can get kids out there talking to adults, if you can get them talking about what they're passionate about, and then they actually get like positive feedback and they actually feel like they're doing, some good and some change positively, it really does affect like not only their psyche, but like their confidence level. And you can see how it's boosted. Right. And even like with our science fair, like I felt weird as an adult. I'm like, I don't want to do a science fair project. I mean, sorry, Jessica. But after doing it, I actually loved it. And I'm like, I want to do more science projects. So, it's amazing. Sometimes you think you're not going to like something, just like with the animals. Sometimes you don't think you're going to like something, just like normal people don't think they're going to like a ball python. But then they're like, whoa, this is really cool. This is fascinating. This is interesting. So, just like Jessica with teaching, you just never know where you're going to be in life. And what if you're open to experiences, it can just change everything. And so that's what we really think, that working with kids is amazing, because they are open for experience. They want to learn. They want to have that connection. And a lot of these kids that are into reptiles don't have a lot of peers that they can like, really enjoy that passion with. I do a lot of birthday parties, and maybe the birthday party boy or girl loves reptiles, but maybe their friends don't. So it's neat to see, how they can bring peers and family members and make them involved, but also change their mind and give themselves that confidence boost. So it's weird at how many different ways it works, and it really like is so beneficial for everybody and for us. And I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
No, it's okay. No, talk as much. Jessica, if you have anything to add, you can jump in. I want to make sure you.
This is why I like doing podcasts with Savannah. I'm not a talker. But no, exactly. Like she's hit on all the points that I was like, oh, I was going to say that. So
no, it's just like, it's so interesting how much we can learn from kids, I think, too. And just how, we were kids at one point in time, and maybe we don't think of from learning them with them. But there's so much, there's their attitude, their openness, their, childlike behavior can actually be.
Yeah, they're funny too. They're really funny. So
funny, yeah. So it's interesting with the open part, that we as adults can maybe be like that sometimes as well. It's hard. We get kind of set in our ways, but referring back to the kids and be open, I think could be beneficial for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that like, it's just amazing what the internet and like these podcasts and like YouTube have really done.
Yeah.
I mean, I have special needs kids who can tell me like every fact about animals. And I'm like, holy moly. Like, hey, Miss Savannah, they found a bigger snake than the Titanic boa. Did you know that? And I'm like, they did just find that out. Like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
And the teachers are looking at them like, how do you know that?
Social media, I mean, it's what got me in. So be very thankful for one snake discovery. I did the NARBC St. Louis show, and they come to that show and they bring a lot of people. There's a line out the door for them for hours, and they're the ones that walk around, and they all got their little hognose shirts on, are so excited. But you still see a lot of the parents still having that reservation where the kid really wants, a pet reptile, but the parent is not quite there yet. So it's figuring out how
they can get there though.
They can get there. Have you seen what tricks and tips have you seen to get the parent there? That may help me as when I'm at these shows vending, how to kind of communicate to the parents a little bit, because I feel like
I always push the science aspect, because I think a lot of parents want their kids to do well academically, and there's a lot of crossover. So I teach biology, and we're getting ready we're learning about heredity right now and how genes and traits are passed down from generation to generation. And ball pythons are a great way to show that. So I actually do a morph market project where
Cool.
I have the kids, like I show how I let them look at all the different snakes on morph market.
They're like,
I show them how the
"Mommy!"
calculator works. Yeah, so
That's
it's really cool. And then I
20,000.
bring in some of the baby, like I bring in a bunch of different baby ball python morphs and a couple of adults too. And the kids love it. And it's such a great way to teach about genetics, which is a complicated, I mean, it's
Oh
a pretty
yeah.
complicated thing
So complicated.
for eighth graders to learn about. So being able to bring in the ball pythons and show them morph market and how many different traits there are and how those mutation works is really, really cool. So I use that a lot. And actually my best friend, who I've known since I was 8, she lives in Texas, and she has a little girl who I think she's going to be 9 this year. Maybe she's going to be 8 this year. I'm not sure. I mean, she wasn't raised around me, but I love it because this little girl is so into reptiles, so into reptiles. And she let me give her a little ball python one year for Christmas. So it was a pied ball python. His name is Marshmallow. And I cannot believe that my best friend has a snake in her house. Like, it's just crazy to me because she didn't like animals, really. I mean, she didn't really even like dogs, and she wasn't an animal person like I was, but definitely not a snake person. So I think it's awesome that she lets her little girl have a snake, and I love talking to the little girl. She'll send me pictures of the snake, of Marshmallow.
Awesome.
So it's really,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's what I always
really
tell
cool.
my students when they want to get an animal. I always tell them, like, do a research project, convince your parents that like it's a really good get. And it's cool too. Like, Krista, you said you have cats and a dog, and I have a dog and a cat. And I tell people that too. I love my dog and my cat, but my dog has to go for walks all the time. I have to clean the litter box. When my dog and cat shed, I'm always sweeping up my floor to clean it up.
I have a husky and it's horrible.
Oh, I have a Malamute, so that's the troublemaker is a Malamute. Yeah.
Never again. Carry on, but when she passes, no husky for me. Nope.
No more husky.
Not dealing with that hair. No.
Watch out for that yellow snow. Watch out where the huskies go. Sorry. That's terrible. Yeah, that's old school. But yeah, I always suggest that because or say that because I love my cat and a dog, but it's so much more work. So I think what's really cool about reptiles is you can create bioactive enclosures. You have those complete ecosystems in small containers. So you're not going to have to worry about your frog or your bearded dragon hopping out and like spilling stuff around your house and knocking over things, because they are housed in their own enclosures. And so I think, like you said, the scientific fact, but also, like, I have a lot of customers who are older, and I'm telling you, for like a 70-year-old woman who's single by herself, it's much easier to have a bearded dragon or a Euromastic than it is to have a dog or a cat. The maintenance of them, it's way less, and they can still provide that same sort of support and companionship that other animals do. And I think that's something. Yeah, I think that's what people don't realize, is that reptiles do have the personalities that they do. So when you show them that and they realize, like, one of my good friends, she's 75 and she has a Euromastix. She does have a dog and a cat too. But, it is a lot easier for her. She did have a dog at one point and he pulled her really hard and she fell and broke her arm. She's never going to have that happen with a Euromastix, but she's open-minded and she loves reptiles. But there are a lot of older people that are now realizing that they are really great pets. I visited a lot of rehabilitation, like physical rehabilitation and retirement homes, especially before COVID. And I was really surprised on how many people were in their 80s and 90s were like, I had a pet iguana, or I had an anole, or, or a tortoise, or whatever it was. And even like the staff were really surprised on how receptive the residents were and how it really was therapeutic for them. I mean, human animal contact like that, it's weird because we're so separated. My dad is a farmer. I come from a farming background and like livestock and cattle.
Yep.
And
Same
so
cattle, yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a cattle rancher in Yeehaw Junction, Florida.
Cool.
And then my family is all like dairy farmers. And so I have a different outlook when it comes to animals. Like before, like the last like 100 years, humans didn't have relationships with animals unless it was a mutual beneficial relationship. You know, you didn't have a cat just to have a cat. You had a cat because it was mousing for you. You had a cat because it was helping protect a lot of your other animals. Same thing with dogs, you know, working animals. And I think it gets a bad rap nowadays. People think, oh, working animals. But, you know, people lose their sense of purpose and they can actually get really depressed when they're not working and don't have a goal. And I think animals are the same way. And so I think it sounds really weird to say that, but I think an animal that's actually working and has a purpose, I know, and it sounds odd to say it that way, but I do think that, like, I can almost feel like that they have a better life, that they have a purpose, that they have more to do. And so, you know, I don't think your dog just wants to sit in your house and get fat and get overfed. Like, if your dog was out there working with you every day and like you had real companionship, like there's a level of bond that we used to have with animals. So, you know, I think there's this like symbiotic relationship that we've had with animals for so long that's kind of been lost because of technology. We don't need horses anymore because we have cars, but you know, there was a lot of things that we had to do with animals to survive. I mean, in the past. So now we have technology and they've gone by the wayside, and now we just think of them strictly as pets. But those animals are bred and genetically have been ingrained to do these different things. It's like pigeons in New York. Like, they talk about them being disgusting animals. These were carrier pigeons. These were meant to spread messages. We bred them for years. They've lived alongside humans. They don't know how to live without us. So now we treat them like trash because we don't need them anymore. But in reality, the only reason they're there is because we brought them there. So I think that, like, I don't know, like, this might be studied in the next, you know, 50, 100 years, what it really is about the human animal interaction and what it really does. But I think it's way bigger than we even understand it. And I think emotionally, psychologically, and like physiologically, I think that we'll find in the future that there's like so many benefits for humans and animal interaction.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a big kind of movement on the vet side with the human animal bond, looking into benefits, a lot of it with soldiers who came back from war and just the benefits of the dogs on them. There's like millions of different ways that animals can be positive with us, both on the research side too. We haven't even scratched the surface, I don't think, of reptiles or animals and how they can be used to not only benefit animal health, but human health as well. It's comparative kind of, actually what I'm specializing in comparative medicine. So it's all this kind of overarching nature, health, animal interaction that, yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of it has gone to the wayside a bit just with technology, and we kind of just anthropomorphize them. We're feeding them a lot, you know, and over time and generations, they might, I don't know, it's interesting. Will they still have that drive to work, or after so many years, will the animals start to kind of lose that quote unquote instinct? I don't know. At first, I don't see that, but who knows with breeding and selective breeding? I don't know.
Yeah. And then, like, when it comes to like comparisons between humans and reptiles, I use that a lot to educate kids on like basic things, like even like one of it is diet. So we were talking about diet and kids were like, diet, that's like when you try to lose weight. And it's like, no, diet is what you should eat so that you're healthy. But then that like actually got me talking about gout. And how weird is it that like uric acid buildup is found in humans? Like, if anybody doesn't know about gout, if you eat too much protein, your body builds up uric acid. Uric acid has no way to escape your body except through like your ankles. So you're literally having acid burning through your skin, your muscle tissue, to release out of your body through your ankles. And that's when you see like it's usually in older people because it takes a long time for the buildup, but you'll see they'll have bandages around their ankles and things like that because of that. But we're seeing that in bearded dragons. Jessica has a customer that messaged me and she goes, oh my gosh, my bearded dragon's getting sores around the leg. And I'm like, yeah, that's uric acid buildup. That's gout. And so we are doing that. We're treating them like we think that they should be, but that's not how they should be, because they eat 10% of what mammals eat. And then at bearded dragons should be eating, 60, 70% veggie, 20, 30, or, whatever, 30% bug protein when they're adults. But people are treating them like spoiled brat children and overfeeding them. And they don't realize the uric acid doesn't affect the bug. It affects the animal. So I use like simple things like that. racism. I talk about melanin and like we talk about genetics, so albino and melanin. And it's crazy to think like melanin is nature's sunscreen. Can you imagine that we've had racism and we've had all of this like hurt between different cultures because of how much sunscreen somebody has in their skin?
Yeah.
Like, let's just break that down. And when you can really break it down like that, that is the dumbest thing ever. Like, you have more sunscreen than me, so I don't like you. Like, come on now.
Yeah. It's
So
yeah. When you get, and even animals don't even, I mean, I think generally if one's different color than the other one, they don't just like, you know, treat it differently. Well, so why do we? I mean, we're technically
social constructs, but that's because somebody figured, you know, and it's crazy, but like when you can really like isolate things like that and break them down and make them accessible, I feel like I can use like the animals to almost teach anything. So I try to like incorporate that kind of stuff and bring it back and forth. But even understanding and working with reptiles helped me understand myself. Like, when I was breeding animals, I was more in tune with like cycles of temperatures and like humidity, even outside. And I was really paying attention, and that made me appreciate it, understand. And again, with technology, we're so separated from the life that we used to live 100, 200 years ago, where we had to actually live in these cycles. You had fast and famine. You had, you know, a time of abundance. You had a time where you didn't have those things. We just don't have that anymore. And so when I worked with animals, it made a huge difference. I understood like stress factors, and you can see how stress really affects reptiles and how fast it does. You can see environmental factors and how fast that does. You can see what D3 and sunlight really does to you. Like, when I get sick, I'm a weirdo and I'll throw a T5 on me. But UVB really does like affect you. You produce D3 in your body that's synthesized, and it affects your sleep cycles. It affects your immune system. So working with the animals and really understanding how little things affect them has really put in perspective how things affect us as humans too, or for me anyway.
Yeah. No, totally, for sure. Yeah, I definitely feel a certain way with the whole time change and winter coming. I kind of get in a little slump where it's dark and cold. Like, you know, there is seasonal depression is a thing. Is it, you know, a real thing? So yeah, that kind of has a relation to the animals too. So
I lived in Portland, Oregon. I know that for a fact.
Really wet. That's why I'm so excited to sun majority of the time. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm a Florida girl. I don't think we have seasonal depression at all.
No, we don't.
Well, I just noticed my mood improved like immensely with the sun today. It was in the 50s. It's not been like that for quite several months, I think. So,
oh my gosh.
Yes. So yeah, you guys are like, but that's cold. Hey, it's all.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
So, awesome conversation. I'm gonna play these commercials really quick, and then we'll get back and finish it up. But fantastic conversation so far. This has been great. So I'll just play a couple and be right back.
Set your reminder for the second annual Reptile Breeder Show happening in downtown Los Angeles, March 1st, thrown by KG&D over at the Bomb Project. I happened to made it to the first show, and it was one of the best times ever had at such a really cool, unique show. Make sure you set your reminders, and if you're in the SoCal area, I highly recommend you pull up to this show and see the kind of vendors that they have vending. Some of the top quality ball python productions and other really cool species of reptiles will be at this show. So again, the Reptile Breeder Show, the second annual Reptile Breeder Show happening in downtown Los Angeles, March 1st. Please set your reminder. Go to the reptilebreedershow.com, get your tickets, get all further information, and you can also give them a follow on Instagram. And I'll definitely see you at the second annual Reptile Breeder Show happening March 1st. Ching! Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Diversity when it comes to a reptile diet, I feel like is so important. So this is why I'm proud to announce today's sponsor, Blake Exotic Feeders over in Florida.
What is up, everybody? Blake here, the owner of Blake's Exotic Feeders. We have all quail available at all times, produced here at my ranch from button day old, from Coturnic day old, all the way to extra large Coturnic quail. If you guys have any questions, DM on Instagram. Appreciate the support, you guys. Make sure you guys hit me up. We have all the quail like I mentioned, and everything is shipped right here from my house.
If you want the #1 quail sent to your doorstep and more importantly fed to your reptile, No better company than to go to than Blake Exotic Feeders. #1 quality in quail, hands down. And I gotta tell you, my reptiles love it just as much. It'll give you a peace of mind to know that these quail are grown on his property and it's not bought third party. Head over to his website, Blake Exotic Animal Ranch, to place your order, or you could just hit him up directly on Instagram. Let him know that the Trap sent you and he'll take extra good care of you. Thank you so much, Blake, for supporting the Trap, and also thank you so much for sending me top quality homegrown quail for my animals. One of the things I love about being a part of the reptile industry is all the learning, okay? Learning can be fun, and I can prove that to you. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, it's Gary Scavino over at gs.reptiles. I highly recommend you head over to his YouTube channel, follow all this man's content when it comes to learning about rare species of snakes you could be keeping in the hobby, and also just finding out how easy a lot of these rare species of snakes are to keep in general. So thank you so much, Gary Scavino of GS Reptiles. Again, head over to his YouTube channel. Also head over to his Instagram to be on top of all of his current work and be ready for a big year over at GS Reptiles. Thank you so much, Gary, for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Chee!
All right, and we are back. I like those little commercials. Just kind of gives like a little mental break and get a drink, and then we'll kind of finish it up. It's been really great discussion so far. So what type of animals, sounds like ball pythons, what type of animals do you have the kids exposed to? Are those animals you breed yourself or rescue, or how does that work? Which species? And
A little bit of everything. I even have some of the kids work on breeding projects for us. So we've bred some
Cool.
African house snakes was a fun one that we did. We do all geckos, of course. So it's kind of a little bit of everything that we have the kids exposed to. So I have a couple personal like animals that I love. I have a Cuban iguana that's amazing named Cooper. I have a couple big boas that they love, and then I like a lot of the king snakes, corn snakes. I'm more into snakes. I know Savannah likes more of the lizards. So.
My snake girl.
Fair enough. Do you find a species they kind of gravitate more toward, or are they pretty open to like all of them?
Yeah, all the kids are different. So some kids really like the snakes, some kids like geckos. It just kind of depends. So we had a hedgehog that was really mean for a little while. That's a couple of the kids. I ended up giving it to one of the kids because the hedgehog liked him for whatever reason. I didn't like anyone else. So I was like, do you want to take this hedgehog home? So
Funny. That's funny.
Yeah, it just depends.
He even wrote a book. Tell her about your book with Starla, and Starla autographs too.
Yeah.
So actually, it's a couple of the kids from the Youth Alliance are the characters in the book, and Starla is my big boa, and she will autograph the book. So I took a pool noodle and put a marker, like a magic marker inside, and she holds on to it. And it looks like she's really signing, so people love it.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That's super cool. When did you write the book? Tell us a little bit more about that.
It's just a kid's book that we wrote about Starla's belly button because for whatever, and this is true. It seemed like when I talk about snakes having belly buttons, for whatever reason, people seem to be like more intrigued and like willing to come closer. They're like, they have a belly button. So
that's funny. Yeah, whatever we can make them seem similar to us kind of makes that fear, I think, as we were talking about, kind of go away. And yeah, people just, if you can just get them to be open to it, then you can kind of overreach the threshold.
I've been doing a lot of research on fear of like large predators specifically, and talking about like evolution and how our brains, like there used to be a reason that our ancestors were afraid of these big predators because they lived amongst them, but modern life has kind of course shifted away from that. It's not really necessary for people to be afraid of large predators like our ancestors were, but our brains haven't evolved to recognize more modern fears like driving. I don't know why people aren't afraid of driving. I mean, I am.
Or planes.
You know, like they're not afraid of driving or car accidents, and that's a much bigger threat to us, I feel like, than a black racer, but a lot of people have that instinctual fear of snakes. So
Hmm. I think it's definitely some cultural thing too. I have a friend at work. She is from Nigeria, Africa originally, where the snakes they're seen as like spiritually like the devil, right? And so there is like really
yeah,
hard getting through. I'll show her pictures, and she's kind of accustomed to seeing the pictures now, but it's definitely like kind of baby steps. And then as you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes. You know, that's a thing they grew up with. That's a very cultural type thing, even more so than
right.
us. I think we're kind
Yeah.
of starting to shift where people are becoming more open, social media, TikTok, kids are saying people have reptiles and are becoming a little more accustomed to it. But I mean, reptiles are overall, I think, a global thing. We're seeing in the snake market. All these countries are kind of getting into it, getting into the morph. So ultimately, it's going to become, or if it's not already, a global connection. So I think that's interesting too.
Mhm.
It's amazing to see people have done conservation efforts too, and you can't. I mean, you can't get angry at the people for their lack of knowledge. So
Mm,
at people combatively, they're going to react to you combatively. So I think what's really interesting in learning and conservation is that it's people who are open-minded. Again, it's open-mindedness, but the people who are open-minded with the natives and really explain to them the benefit and like what are the benefits of having these animals. And it's amazing when you can actually explain to people that. Um, I've seen like there's been different conservationists, bat conservationists and others that have done this. And once they explain the actual the nature of the animal and how they're beneficial to the people, that it was amazing almost instantaneously when they realized the benefit to their community. The people stopped poaching them, they stopped hunting them,
mhm.
they stopped when they realized. But you're talking about people who, it's like rhino iguanas in the Dominican Republic. Like the people that you're trying to help protect these animals are starving to death. You're telling them
Mhm.
to starve to death or to eat an animal, they're going to eat an animal.
Yeah.
People are so poor, they're burning trees to create coal, to sell coal. Have you ever
Mhm.
been poor enough that you think of the tree outside and go, I could make some money by burning this and turning this into coal? I mean, you're
Yeah.
you're pretty desperate when it comes to that point that you're looking at burning your native land to be able to feed your family. So
Right.
when you can show and you can actually provide jobs, that's where it comes to conservation efforts. If we can get funding and then we can put that into these communities, these people would much rather be saving their land than destroying it to take care of their families. So if there's a monetary value when it comes to conservation, it's hands down gonna win. Nobody wants to destroy their habitat and their community, but when it comes to being desperate and you not having any other option, then that is what you're going to resort to. So a lot of these, like in like really rural communities where they don't have any industry or any way to make money, that's when you're really seeing destruction of land and
Mhm.
animals, things like that. So I
Mhm.
think working with people and not being combative and really just keeping, again, an open mind.
Yeah.
I think that people are really more open-minded than you think they are. And
Hmm.
it's just like that teacher. She might not like my animals, but I still visit the school once a week.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So have
Yeah.
the good face on and just be positive, and I think over time you'll definitely make a change. I'll make a shout out to Keys here. Yeah, it was great seeing you last weekend at SCRE. So thanks for tapping in. Um, but yeah, with the conservation efforts, have you had any specific projects that have had a big impact on you guys that we would like to talk about? Just like direct, if that makes sense. Any specific kind of project or areas or species or anything?
We just
Personally,
kind of yeah, we
no, go
kind of
ahead.
involved the kids a lot. So like part of the science fair that we were talking about was actually those were projects that the kids did themselves on reptiles, and they talked about we had all kinds of really creative ones. We had one on lubber grasshoppers
Hmm.
down in Florida, and that kid talked about um there's only one they only have one predator, and it's the loggerhead, that bird that has they impale the lubbers and let the
Okay.
toxins run out because they're toxic. And
Oh,
that kid talked about he thinks that the tegus, the invasive tegus, because those birds are now not doing well, that the invasive tegus might be able to take over, some of the eating those lubbers that the birds used to eat. So we put a lot of our efforts into developing like the kids and letting them work on conservation efforts. So
that's a really cool. That's a really cool. I never heard about that. Yeah, it's interesting how you can almost use invasive stuff to maybe be. We always think of it as negative, right? The
right.
invasive one actually, in some instances like this, it could be a little bit.
Yeah,
Of
I mean, and I think that's kind of how we need to. I mean, 'cause especially like Florida natives, like Savannah and I, like we love the Florida native reptiles. Like that's what we grew up loving, and we definitely want to do everything we can to protect them. But it's a little naive of us to think that just banning them from the pet industry is going to help,
Yeah.
combat that problem. So maybe we should start looking at other ways to help with the Florida's wildlife now, because those birds are endangered, the lubber grasshoppers eat crops and do a lot of damage because it's out of balance. Like there's no predators eating them the way that they should be eating them. So
Yeah, and legislation is a big one too. Like here in Florida, I mean, we've had an issue with green iguanas, so now we've made it so nobody can catch them. Like, so what's that going to do to the population? You had all these people who were making money by catching iguanas and shipping them out of state, and now there's like 3 or 4. We're friends with Jordan Spring. Oh my God, did I just say Sud? Sorry, Jordan Spring. She is one of the permit holders, and so she can ship out green iguanas from Florida, but they require them to have pit tags. So now it's a deterrent for her to catch baby greens because they're not big enough to pit tag. It's also a deterrent to catch big green males because they don't tame down. So you have to she's having to follow guidelines, but it's actually really it's currently having a negative impact on our wild native population, because here's your invasive species. And, it was reptile keepers who were actually keeping that species at bay. And now you've taken away all the rights that they have to be able to do that. And so it's just going to make the problem exponentially worse. Just like box turtles, like it's so crazy. Like box turtles here in Florida, you can legally take a box turtle from the wild, right?
See in Indiana, you can't do that anymore.
But you can't breed them. And so we can't do conservation efforts to breed box turtles and reintroduce them into the wild, but you can still legally take a box turtle from the wild like that. It's just backwards thinking. So we're really hoping with the Reptile Youth Alliance that we can just let's throw some common sense in there. It's like the racism card. Like if you can just really break this stuff down, like to the basic levels, like you can really you can highlight the stupidity.
Yeah, of where it's because like Indiana, I actually grew up herping with my dad, and we go in the woods and stuff and catch box turtles. We would release them, but now it's like a law that you can't. So it seems like there's a breakdown at the government level that there's not quite, which I think, of course, is where USARK comes in and helps with that. But it seems like it's such a monster or beast, and be able to.
Yeah. So that's why we feel like educating the youth as much as we can, because a lot of these kids are going to be involved in making some pretty big decisions for ecology in the future and conservation of reptiles in the future. So
voting or becoming even legislative members themselves.
Well, I don't think a lot of people realize that our Florida Department wildlife commissioners here in Florida, they're all appointed. It's bipartisan. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's a money thing. And 9 out of 10 of our FWC commissioners are land developers here in Florida. And the 10th of the commissioner, she is a widow of a land developer. So
interesting.
These are appointed. They are not elected. This is the thing that we don't realize too, that has to do with education. Appointed members of our government are not allowed to make legislative changes. Like that is something that's supposed to be voted on. So what they're actually doing, like with the laws that they're putting into place, it's actually done illegally. Like, how do you prove that? It's pretty crazy. You have commissioners who are making legislative changes.
Yeah.
And they're not elected officials, and only elected officials are who are allowed to do that. But that has to do with education. A lot of people don't even realize that. That goes over people's heads. People don't realize that sugar is a huge industry here in Florida. And like, I used to buy Florida cane sugar and think, oh, this is great. We didn't realize, I didn't know that they're redirecting our waterways and they're pushing out all kinds of fertilizers into the Gulf because they're fertilizing those sugar crops. Nobody hears about that because it's big money. And that's what's actually causing like big blooms of like red tide. So it's really like it stinks to be an adult and realize that it is really all kind of corrupt and it is really all driven by money. But I mean, how do you have the people who are supposed to be protecting our animals and our land developers? These people are cutting budget on gopher tortoise conservation efforts. At every meeting, they're trying to cut costs when it comes to conservation efforts. And the same people are trying to drain estuaries to build golf courses and communities on them. You know, so it's a hard battle because you're just battling money. And USARC and USARC Florida are doing their best. But how can we prove that our industry is going to make them money? Because that's bottom line. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
They're destroying Florida. Pinellas County, where I live, they keep building. I actually just got my real estate license, but they're building and building in here. And our infrastructure has not changed. We don't have the sewage system set up. We don't have any of the infrastructure to handle this amount of people. Our aquifers here in Florida are getting polluted, and they're, you know, they don't even know how many years before they're completely like contaminated and unusable. My family, I have a cousin who lives in Central Florida, and they have these big trucks, and it's being posted all the time. You don't hear about it in media, but they literally take like okay, so you have like porta potties, and there are companies that get paid to like suck up all the you know, waste.
Nasty.
They go and they dump this in farmlands. They are dumping it out there. But the reason they do it is because they dump it out. They wait for it to dry, and then they scrape it all back up, and then they dispose of it because they get charged per pound for disposal fees. And they save money letting that soak into our soil and into our aquifers, and they come back and scrape it later. And they don't care about the fines because the money that they're making, who cares about an EPA fine?
That's
so it's crazy.
So frustrating. It seems like the only language they speak is money. So that presents a challenge on how us as an industry can talk to them on that, like sneak it in kind of way.
Sneak it in.
Well, reptile. There's a lot of money that goes around in the reptile industry. Why else would you have all these other companies come in, light company or like a racks? I mean, you got all the feeders and the supplies. Like, it's not just the animals. There's a lot, you know, a lot of money.
And that's what we have to prove. That's what we have to prove. And it sucks that it is like that, but it really is. And so, I mean, it's a hard thing to combat, and you know, where are we going to go next with it? But I think that the whole thing is people opening their minds. Once you, like, it's just like facing your fear. Once you are open to the reality of it, you know, once you really realize what's in front of you, then you can make the right decisions, and you aren't making them based on, you know, preconceived notions or assuming that the FWC is looking to do the best that they can do. Now, FWC officers and people that work for the FWC, they are just like us. They love animals. There's a reason why they're in that industry. But commissioners, there's a reason why they're in that industry. So follow the money and see, you know, you just got to, what does somebody get out of it? When you hear somebody talk about something, what are they going to get out of it? That's what I always look at. So it's hard to think about it like that, but opening kids' minds too, to not just blanketly trust adults. Like, becoming an adult, and I'm almost 40 now, and it's like, oh, they don't really have their stuff together, you know, like people don't know as much as they pretend that they know. Like, you know, it's like wink, wink, we didn't know, you know. So I think it will inspire change, and hopefully people won't just put their heads down and just like blindly go with what's happening, which is what people have been doing in the past.
Mm-hmm. And with that, kind of turns into the last part of the conversation I want to talk about. How do you think that, because a lot of people that listen to this are going to be breeders or keepers, so how can we get involved either at the Reptile Youth Alliance, or what ways do you think that we can work with kids or their youth and incorporating them from a breeder or keeper perspective?
So we're always looking for, one thing that we like to do is kind of look for mentors for the kids. So especially if you're into breeding and like something specific, like Mike from Mike's Monitors has been great.
Cool.
Working with us, trying to inspire some of the kids, because kids love him and love monitors. So he's been really great. So if you are doing something specific, and we might have a kid that really likes that type of animal, and Savannah and I might not know much about them. So we're always looking for mentors, just volunteering of time. And then of course, any help we can get with, planning trips or getting the kids more involved is always appreciated.
Yeah, we'd love to tour facilities with the kids. So if it's a big enough breeder and they want to invite us to their facility, you mentioned Mike, and Mike has he did a great video for us talking about his experience. And, people think you just want to be positive, but you don't. Like, tell your pitfalls. That was one thing that Mike really did with his videos. He shared that, he took the harder road, and then he was able to curve back from that. So I think really even just telling your own story is really inspiring. How did you get into it? What was it for you? I didn't get into it until I was 29. I had a bearded dragon when I was, 12, and I didn't get another animal until I was later on in my life. So I think really sharing your story, sharing your weaknesses and your strengths are huge. And then if you can, check us out, Reptile Youth Alliance. We've got an Instagram page. We've got the reptileyouthalliance.org for our website. We've got Facebook. If there's something like that's one thing that we're trying to do with the Reptile Youth Alliance, because we teach, but we can only do so much. But we're really trying to connect people. So we need mentors for those kids. So if it's something, even if you don't want to be hands-on with the kids, maybe, if you don't like kids, I get it. It's okay. Some people don't like kids and love animals.
I didn't think I would like them either.
Exactly. It turns out I really actually like kids.
I like reptiles. I didn't think I would like kids, but I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if it's not that you don't want to have like a personal interaction, you don't want to do mentoring, even like telling your story, posting a video, or like giving information about what you're doing, it really is inspiring. Because for me, like, I didn't get into this industry for so long because I just didn't even see how I could make a career out of it. I didn't see how I could really bring it into my life. And so with the more stories that people share of their own personal experience, it really does show kids all the different avenues, because there are so many different avenues to get into when it comes to this industry. You can be in the pet sales, but you can also be in the science aspect. You can be in the care aspect, veterinary. You could be in development of products. You can be in, there's so many, I mean, pretty much there is a position for any personality within the animal community, as long as you can find where your fit is. And I think that that's what I found as a niche. And I think that everybody can find their own niche. And so,
right.
Even if you think you are a niche and you don't think you have a lot to offer to other people, I say you actually do, because there's somebody out there just like you who doesn't know how to break in and doesn't know how to find their niche. And you just telling about yours really does inspire and give people motivation to really look.
They might just need that little bit of encouragement. So they're at such a fragile age, some of them. So they if they just get like the littlest bit of encouragement can make such a big difference for a lot of the kids.
For sure. I brought this question up. Dripping Dragons asked, where are you located? And is there ways, maybe if we don't live, like where you guys live in Florida, is there still a way we can impact, virtually? Sounds like there is, but maybe answer that question.
So me and Jessica aren't even close by. We're at least like 3 hours away from each other.
Yep.
And so we're not just being, we're Florida based because that's how we met, but we aren't making this a local based community. So that is the cool thing about social media, is that we can all get together and we can really work from different states and different locations. And so one thing that Jessica and I were just talking about today that we want to start doing is, and it's cool to see your advertisements for like the California shows and things like that, is we really want to start getting to all these different expos and really getting like feet on the ground. We want to start like meeting people. We know a lot of people in Florida, but we would really like to try to, and we know a lot of people social media wise, like around the country, but we'd really like to meet people in person and really get those good connections going. And we're always, we're open. Like we talked this whole conversation, going back, but we are open. Like we are open to, just like we were open to a name change if it's going to get us more exposure. We're open to finding the best way. This is a new organization. We're just trying to figure out how we can do the best and how we can merge the community, the education, the kids, and the animals all together. So if you have a suggestion, we would really love to hear it. If there's something that you want to help with, please like reach out, because we need help. We feel like we're not doing enough because we're full-time teachers, but we are teaching about reptiles too. But it's a lot of work and we can't do it by ourselves. So we're looking for a community. And that's what I think too is a big thing, is that again, with technology, everybody's isolated themselves. Everybody's an individual. And so we highlight this importance on individuality when really like collectively, when we're a community and work together, and you can see that with like USARC and USARC Florida and the way these organizations work, there's power in numbers. I'm not going to do anything just sitting by myself, talking to myself, because I could talk a lot, and Jesus, nobody wants to hear that. But, but when we come together, like even having this conversation now, it really does like inspire, just like we went to that Croc Fest and inspired us. So if Flavio hadn't done that and they hadn't been building that and all those people hadn't been a part of that, we wouldn't have even started it, because it wouldn't have given us that inspiration. So, we're looking to evolve, and we're not, even though we love dinosaurs, we're not going to be dinosaurs.
It's fine. And with that too, they kind of commented back. Yeah, you can maybe write this name down or go back for it. But yeah, I want you to come out to this.
Yeah, Dripping
expo,
Dragon.
Kid, youth friendly, exotic vet that does a talk. Yeah, sounds like that. I think doing the shows is fantastic. That way we as breeders and keepers get kind of aligned with you guys and figure out how we can be involved in person. Communication is so important. I went to the Southeast Reptile Expo. It's in Atlanta, so that could be relatively close. It's a really big show. I highly recommend.
Is that Bob's show?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I heard some great things about that.
Yeah, that would be also a really good show, I think, for you guys too. It's gonna be it's just starting out, but it'll be an up and coming. I think it's already a national kind of recognized show, but I think it's gonna get bigger and better with more vendors. So I would definitely reach out to Bob if you were interested in get your name in and set up shop there and meet everybody else. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, Atlanta's a really fun place to visit too. So yeah, we definitely. So yeah, we have FOMO when it comes to all these shows. I think everybody else does too.
It's a lot. Travel's expensive and it adds up. Yeah, it's tough too, that part of it, but I think it's so worth it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check it out. That's really awesome. But yeah, it's so awesome to talk to you, and just hearing about what you're doing is really awesome. And so how do you think what you like? I know that we're talking about us, but like, how do you think what you're doing like inspires kids, or do you feel like you have inspiration? Or
from a science perspective, I see a lot when the kids understand how similar animals are to us. So I focus on cancer research. Actually, I do human lung cancer and I do dog osteosarcoma research. So I haven't with that, if I'm talking to kids or something like that, it's just they kind of open their eye, and the parents too, about how similar canine osteosarcoma is to humans. So for our treatment, we want to test in dogs that are coming into the clinic that are diagnosed with it, and then ultimately go to that treatment too in both humans. There's been some cancer treatments that have been developed in dogs that we see a response, and we can take that into humans. And I think that is just really fascinating, and also just highlights how important animals are to our society, not only for our well-being but also our health too.
Right.
And with cancer specifically, if you ask anybody, everybody knows at least somebody, whether it's a family member or a friend or something. So there's still a lot of diseases out there that are impacting us that animals can have. a
Yeah,
relationship.
and lung cancer is huge. My grandmother
Yeah.
died of lung cancer.
Mm,
That's
see?
that's a gnarly way to
Yep.
go. And cancer is a big thing, especially with reptiles. Like there's so much cancer research that we can do with reptiles, and we're
Mhm.
only like touching the surface of it. I mean, we're talking melanoma cancer with leopard geckos, and so
Yep.
that's so inspiring. Like the tip of the iceberg. This is what we're just studying now, and what can we like? A friend of mine, he's an oncologist, and I was talking to him because he performs all these crazy surgeries, and we just talk about like what he does is so innovative now, but how like barbaric it's going to seem in the future that we actually did all these invasive procedures where we're probably only going to have to do like gene therapies and like biologicals. You're talking about injections. So instead of like tearing through people's tissue and cutting people and dissecting them, you'll literally be able to give them a shot and be able to give their body what they need for cell regeneration or whatever it is. So it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, from that aspect, and then just inspiring them from being a vet. You know, a lot of kids who love animals, they see that as a career path, and some of it is kind of in the vet field. There is, of course, a lot of negatives with it. You go to school, you're in a lot of debt. It's not the easiest profession. There's a lot of mental health. So there is kind of a negative stigma, but I think that doesn't mean we shut it out from the kids. We still want people interested. There's a vet shortage right now. Everybody got pets during COVID, and so now our industry is kind of flipped on its side. So it's because when I was growing up, every vet was like, you don't want to do this and you shouldn't go into this type of thing. I think that's not the right attitude to have, obviously. So that could be, I think, still should be an inspiration to kids too, that they can, if this is as a possible career path or something, some career related, with animals, that they can be productive members of society, make money, have a good life, that type of thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so excited you had us. It was such a cool conversation.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the podcast. It's so cool to learn.
It went by fast. I definitely would have you. I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface, but we're coming up on the end here. So yeah, was there anything I didn't ask that you wanted to touch on? I feel like we kind of touched on what you guys did, how people can reach out to you. I'll definitely reach out, see if there's anything I can do we'll be moving to Florida, so I can do stuff in person, but if there's anything beforehand I can do to virtually, then we'll do that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, to spread the word, and then we just want to kind of network, and that's the thing, is just really building those connections. And once we can build those connections and establish it, then it's going to be so much easier for us, for the community. So, we're in the beginnings of it, so we're putting our tentacles out there, and we're trying to grow.
Yeah, it's a process, but networking so important. That's been the most important thing, I think, for me to get to where I'm at, both in my career and on the reptile side, is networking, meeting as many people as you can. That's what I attest it to, is networking. So important.
I think it's huge. It's huge for the kids too, because once they realize that it is that easy and they get over that fear, because it is so fearful, to try to meet people that you don't know, especially when you respect them. It's so scary to go up to like your hero and say like, I love you. Can you, so if you can facilitate those relationships and create those pathways, like we're just really we just saw that there was a lack in the industry. There was so many people that were interested, but there was no like real network for it. So that's where we felt like, that's where we saw our niche. And, during COVID, it was crazy. Like you said, like the industry blew up. I was talking to one of the reps, Eric from ZoomEd, and he was talking about, I was asking him about sales, like how, they peaked, they kind of bottomed out. And then he said they're steady at an increase. So, I mean, we're seeing people are keeping more pets than they probably ever have in like the last 20, 30 years. And we're also seeing like a total shift of what kind of pets people are having. So like, I would love to look at the stats, but I can guarantee you that like reptiles being a percentage of like, home family pets is definitely probably up, exponentially of what it was. So we're excited about the future of all this. And we really thank anybody who wants to participate, because we know it's a lot of work, but I also feel like when you do it, it really is a blessing to you. And I mean, I don't want to be like, but I feel like I have had so many positive things happen to me because of working for the kids. So I think when you work outside yourself and you work for your community, you'll see a lot of it coming back to you too. That's just for the selfishness of humans, because that's what we really care about, right? Ourselves.
Money. Yes.
Ourselves and money, right?
Yep. Just anything you want to say before I?
No, I just appreciate you having us on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they went by super fast. I'm super
Yes,
excited.
it
It's
did.
really great work you guys are doing, and truly changing lives in the industry in a positive way. So thank you for your time tonight. So
Thank you.
all right,
Thank
that's a
you.
wrap. I'll put you guys backstage. I'll close everything out and I'll say goodnight to you guys.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. Fantastic episode tonight. I'll take the banner off. Reach out if you got questions. Definitely follow these guys. Reach out if you think that you can be. It sounds like any one of us with our interest in reptiles can have an impact with them. So definitely reach out, or if you have questions and want to get in contact, just reach out to me. And I'll see you guys next Sunday, and have a great start to your week.